Well, there's several aspects to China. I'm very clear-eyed about China.
It is non-stop here. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got a poll coming out from Yahoo News with over 50,000 people participating. This is a lot of data considering most polling firms are doing 1,000, 2,000 max. And this Yahoo poll has a whole bunch of questions, not just one. It's also been found that the Liberals are suspected of funding Chinese police stations in Cpac. With advanced polling just starting, there's massive turnouts of people going to the polling stations, people lining up across the country. Let's jump into this. So I've got a whole bunch of polling data here. We're going to fire through these. This one coming from Abacus data showing Pierre at 43, Mark Carney at 40%. This is talking about the debate, so you can see people who watched all of it, some and watched a little of it. Poilievre leading in these polls. This bounces around a lot. We've got Schreitis modeling this out. Look at this. So we're seeing, we'll make it big here, 149 for the Conservatives. This is how many seats versus 149 for the Liberals. So with this current model here, neck and neck. But things are going towards the Conservative side, right? I mean, we saw big numbers for the Liberals earlier. The trend is shifting here. Let's keep it going. We've got Main Street poll here, 42%, Liberals 40.6% for the Conservatives. And this one we're seeing the block up at 6%. So they're gaining support back, which is, you see this 1.5% drop from the Liberals. That's where that's getting eaten, probably from the French debate. And as we go forward here, the effects of the English debate are going to start kicking into these polls. Got this one here, which is interesting, just taking a look at the demographics. This one was from a few days ago. This is 42% Conservative, 40% Liberal. This is a near dead heat for 18 to 34. I just don't believe that. I mean, personally, the party that has made housing expensive, I don't know why people would continue to support that. We got 54% for the Liberals for university and only 28% for the Conservatives. Typically that metropolitan vote, universities, this does make sense. Maybe this is a little wider than I would expect to see, but this one was before the debates and we're seeing the block here at 5.3% and the last one showed 6%. So I think the block is getting some of that support back with Blanchette essentially obliterating Mark Carney during the French debate. Now jumping over to Yahoo News, look at this. This is quite the poll here. So I've already filled out mine. You can see my results here, but it says who won the English debate? Pierre 58%, Mark Carney 39%. So something to note with this, Blanchette's not going to be represented here because obviously this is all in English and French speakers probably not looking at this. But Jagmeet saying 1%. So let's keep it going here. We got who won the French debate. So Blanchette getting a little bit more support here, but I don't think this is properly voted on, but still 61% Poilievre, 30% Carney. Got this one here. It says, which issues matters to you most out of the following? I put immigration because immigration affects all of this stuff. It affects affordability, cost of living, housing crisis, healthcare. It really affects all of it, but most people going on affordability and cost of living makes sense. 21% Trump tariffs. So this is the Liberal supporters putting this in here. And should note the polling here, 35,000 for this one, 33,000. This gets progressively more for some of these. This one here is interesting. It says, how much does Trump's leadership impact how you vote in Canada? You can grab this wheel and move it like this. So you can see when people dropped it here, there's a whole bunch of lines there and it's stacked out on this side too. So really this is 56% for Pierre Poilievre on this side and 32% for Mark Carney on this side. But there's a wide spectrum here, people choosing how much Trump is affecting their vote. And that's 28,000 votes. Moving on here, we've got 35,000 votes for, did you change your vote after the US started a trade war against Canada? We've got 83% of people said, no, my decision hasn't changed. 14% saying yes, and only 3% haven't made up their mind. That is interesting. So most people are just sticking to where they were beforehand. I don't know. It's hard to say. And something else to note with this, anyone can vote on this. So Americans could vote on this. I don't know why they would want to, but they could. This one here, 51,000 votes. Who do you want to see lead Canada as the next prime minister? Pierre Poilievre, 58%, Mark Carney, 38%. Once again, if we put Yves-François Blanchette, pull that up to say 6%, and Jagmeet's going to get some more of the support than 1%, even though he only deserves 1%. You can pull both of these down equally by 15%, say 7 off of both. That would drop Poilievre down to like 50, 51, and Carney down to 31. Now, would it be equally split? Probably not, but kind of putting Pierre in the ballpark of like a high 40s, and maybe Carney's up at 35 and Poilievre's 45, 46. Hard to say, but I mean, this is a lot of votes. This is way more 10 times, like more than 10 times, 15 times more than any pollster gets in their polling firm. And this is Yahoo News, so it's not left-leaning, right-leaning, it's just Yahoo News. So I think this is a very good indication of where people are going with this election. Got this one, 29,000 votes. It says, do you feel well engaged by the parties and media this federal election? I said no, could have done better because Mark Carney keeps dodging the media. And we're seeing that today. Mark Carney dodged another media appearance. He's supposed to go on the Knowledge Project podcast that Pierre Poilievre went went on, and he is dodged out of that because he was scared of the questions and he wasn't allowed to know what they were up front. We got that story here from Brian Lilly. So Shane Parrish, this is the guy from Knowledge Podcast. So Brian Lilly pointing out that Mark Carney flew to New York and American media while evading Canadians, and now it's time to show up for a Canadian podcast, and he refuses to go on there because he doesn't know what the questions are. You can see that right from Shane here. This is Knowledge Podcast. Terry Newman saying, I think Carney should make time for you. What could be more important? The debates are not giving Canadians the real answers. He says, I agree. He agreed to come on, but has backtracked on that. I've been told I'm seen as risky because I won't hand over questions in advance. Mark Carney is scared. This is pitiful. This is not a leader. Mark Carney is a loser. Going back to Yahoo here, we've got this one, 35,000 votes. Which political party's values do you identify with the most? Conservative Party, 63. Liberal Party, 28. NDP coming in with 5%. So it really shows that people don't like Jagmeet. 1% Green PPC. PPC is a wasted vote. People need to stop voting for PPC. It's not going to help us fix our country. And the MJ Party, 1%. Okay. That's all the questions they had on here. This really shows a lot. The Conservatives are leading in every single category on here. And this is not a conservative website. This is Yahoo News. With that, we had advanced polling stations opening up, and there was lines out the door everywhere. We've got Burlington, Ontario, long line, filled up. Got this one here in Toronto, people lined up. People are coming out to vote. Got this one from Nanaimo. It says, I just got back from advanced polls. I'm blown away by the turnout, line stretched out with some waiting up to an hour just to vote. What struck me about the mix was young people, 24 years old, and seniors all ready for change after a tough decade. That does not sound like people wanting another 4 years of the Liberals. I've got another one here I clipped. I went to vote this morning at around 10 until 11 a.m. and it was a 2-hour wait. Just a heads up to anyone. So this is also in Nanaimo. These are both from Nanaimo here. I'm seeing this across the country. I believe Marty up north had a post saying that they had roughly around 330 people show up, 30 people per hour, just people lined up to vote. Everyone wants to change. And then we've got Jagmeet saying, this is hilarious. Ryan Garrettson said, no doubt Jagmeet voted for Carney.
Yeah, see?
Uh-oh. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you for calling. Did you get all your ID back?
I did, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. All right, Kitty.
Gotta get that shot, Jagmeet.
Easy to vote. It's great to vote. Get out and vote.
Voted for Carney, didn't he? Moving away from polling, we've got breaking. Liberal MP personally invited head of illegal CCP police stations to an exclusive campaign dinner. Carney's Liberals are literally rolling out the red carpet for Beijing operatives who are attacking our sovereignty and intimidating Chinese Canadians. So this story here coming from the National Post, group suspected of hosting Chinese police stations received up to $200,000 in federal funding. The corruption in this country, Liberal government, is out of control. It says experts say the funding may have helped legitimize the Montreal-based charity suspected of supporting efforts to silence critics of China's regime. Experts on Chinese foreign interference fear that funding may have helped pro-Beijing actors expand the Chinese Communist Party's network in Canada while legitimizing the organization police suspect that may be supporting efforts to intimidate or silence critics of China's ruling regime. So what we're talking about here is the organization Service à la Famille Chinoise du Grand Montréal. I'm going to refer to it as the charity. It's a charity, it says here, Montreal-based charity that advertises itself as a resource for Chinese Canadians to Canada, also promotes initiatives for the community's well-being. But now the RCMP believes that the charity may also be hosting one of two alleged secret Chinese police stations in Quebec. So a Chinese police station is essentially a wing of the Chinese Communist Party to have influence in Canada, whether that's influencing individual people, getting influence in our government and certain people pushing CCP policies in Canada that benefits China, having just more links for them to control us. And that could be forcing people, intimidating people, cracking down, like we saw with the whole bounty capture situation. So these are essentially secret police stations. The National Police Force is investigating the organization on part of a larger probe aiming to detect and perturb criminal activity supported by a foreign state that can threaten the safety of people living in Canada. So it goes on to say here, Ottawa sent $200,000 in public funds to the charity between 2020 and 2022. This is just disgraceful stuff. Going down further here, we've got Conservative MP Kelly McCauley said he was stunned that the Liberal government appears to have made no attempts to claw the money back. Of course not. They like it. They like it when Xi Jinping here is campaigning for Mark Carney. So it goes on to say here, the links between the charity and the Chinese government go back years, and the organization organization likely to receive funding directly from Beijing, according to a recent report by the Toronto Star. The newspaper cited Chinese media reports in 2016 that the charity was designated as an overseas Chinese service center by China's Overseas Chinese Affairs Office, which became part of China's controversial United Front Work Department in 2018. So that is the arm of the Chinese Communist Party, the United Front Work Department. That designation generally comes with funding from the Chinese government. It says this charity is one of many Beijing-funded organizations applying and receiving Canadian government funding. With this quote here saying getting funding in Canada legitimizes the group and provides it more of a foothold. Over the last 3 reported fiscal years, the charity reported over $4.45 million in government funding, with the bulk of it coming from Quebec's Ministry of Immigration, Franchisation, and Integration. Like, what do we do with headlines like this? This is crazy. We're having an election and this is the news that's dropping. Will Mark Carney address this? No. I hope a reporter puts this to him. This is our money given to help secret Chinese police stations. What do we even do anymore? At least the RCMP are investigating this one. Speaking of Mark Carney and China, so he was questioned about China, and listen to this long ramble here in front of Niagara Falls. He is so desperately trying to distance himself from China, and we know he is so wrapped up with Xi Jinping.
Freelance. Last night at the debate, you said the single greatest threat facing Canada was China. I'm hoping you can expand on that a little bit and tell me a bit about how our current relationship with the U.S. impacts that threat, and specifically how you would stand up for the sovereignty of Taiwan, given the current chaos and uncertainty.
Well, there's several aspects to China. I'm very clear-eyed about China. It is the second largest economy in the world. It is our second largest trading partner. It is also, and I'll choose my words carefully, given that I'm briefed on these matters and have my security clearance and do that. It is one of the largest threats to, with respect to foreign interference.
I can't believe he just said that. I mean, he got obliterated on live TV to the nation over that security clearance, and he drops that again? Why?
Which we have to counter, and we are countering. It is a partner, more than that, with Russia, and is supporting them in its unjustified invasion, illegal invasion of Ukraine. It is a threat within broader Asia and to Taiwan, and so we both have to engage with China.
It's almost every second word is an
Take steps to protect ourselves here. Take steps, for example, which we have done in the last few weeks, steps to protect the Arctic. China is a threat, becoming an emerging threat to the Arctic, which...
Yeah, Justin Trudeau brought in Chinese spies to train in the Arctic with our military.
Is why we will now have, one of the reasons why we'll now have year-round presence in the Arctic, why we have over the horizon radar struck with Australia, why we have announced that we're going to reinforce our icebreakers and our military capabilities in the Arctic. So as from a geopolitical sense, the biggest threat, we're taking action to address.
Catalyze, fundamental, who would vote for this? No kidding. We got people posting this everywhere, compromised liberals. This guy's so full of crap, his eyes are brown. China is the biggest challenge, says Carney, but he's raising the U.S. because people apparently vote on emotion, not logic. This is a great comment. If it was really the biggest threat, he would be dealing with the tariff situation with canola. He hasn't even mentioned it. He does not care about Saskatchewan at all. Next up, we got a video here of David Cochrane getting fact-checked. It says 6 lies on CBC.
Okay, Bob, I'm going to come to you on this. Here's what's going on here. To my left, there's the room there where the media is gathered. It's where they can watch the debates. This is where the scrums are happening with the leaders. There was some sort of an altercation inside there in the last little while involving Ezra Levant.
Lie, the altercation involving Ezra was a left-wing Hill Times journalist attacking Ezra. This is true. I showed this on the channel yesterday.
So that everyone might have a chance to ask a question.
You're
but
getting
instead,
the facts wrong.
you wanted
Nobody
to take,
said
what was
that.
it, 2-minute long question?
Who is the head of Rebel News and other journalists. Michel Cormier has escorted Ezra Levant out. His credentials, we believe, has been revoked.
Lie, Ezra's credentials were not revoked. Here's Ezra Levant's tweet. I'm sitting in the third row in the media room, right near the Montreal Gazette. You need better sources.
Earlier in this program, you might have seen sort of some glitchy video playing because we had to go to tape because Mr. Levant and his people came over with cameras rolling and tried to interrupt this broadcast.
Lie, during the break in his broadcast, I approached David Cochran to tell him he had some of his facts wrong in this segment, and I'd like to take the opportunity to correct him. He said he was live. Obviously, he wasn't, as staff were puttering on the set, and that he wasn't interested in hearing my points. Rosemary Barton was there too, and she said the same. They literally didn't want to hear anything from me. Even though they spent the whole segment talking about me, they called security who were confused. I left them before they were live again.
But Bob, this is kind of what's been going on here. Just your thoughts on
first
what
of
we've
all,
seen.
look, these are not journalists.
Lie, independent journalists are journalists. They have millions of readers. They break stories that the mainstream media often steal. They were accredited as journalists by a judge, which is why they were there.
These are right-wing agitators, and they what they do is they use these kind of activity, stunts and antics to raise money.
Very misleading. Yes, independent media needs to sell subscriptions to stay afloat. The legacy media used to do this too until they decided just to steal taxpayer money instead.
We've seen these people chase down liberal politicians or NDP politicians, screaming in their faces.
CTV's Daniel Hamdajian chased down conservative staffer Nigel Wright at 4 a.m.
Well,
So this is Global's David Atkin interrupts and yells at Poilievre during press conference.
are you going to let me make my misstatement?
From the guy who actually reported first on the Prime Minister.
In 2019, CBC's Rosemary Barton sued the Conservative Party in the middle of an election. There are endless examples of government-funded legacy journalists acting worse than independent journalists.
And then they try to raise money off of it.
I feel sorry for Canadians because they don't have a democracy and evidently must endure the government-appointed candidates. Look inside yourself, CBC. That's why I never listen to them. I think the CBC can see a big blue wave coming and they are disgruntled. So jumping over to CBC here, we got more meltdowns over journalists, independent journalists who got to ask questions.
Okay, but particularly on this question of admitting the rebel news, et cetera, into this thing, I think we've now seen the last nail in the coffin of any idea that these people are just sort of alternative media or independent journalists or anything resembling. These were bully boys and thugs. These are performance artists. These are grifters. They rely on the technique of basically staking out a completely unhinged partisan position and then say that anybody who disagrees with that is just simply partisan in another direction. Journalists have our faults. We make all kinds of mistakes. We struggle with our job, but we are at least trying to be fair to people and trying to look at the things in the round and to present as.
How are these guys being fair? What a stupid statement. This paid media is always favoring Mark Carney, always taking shots at Pierre Poilievre. We're not dumb.
Accurate a picture as we can of what went on. They're not even trying, and that is the difference.
Wow. Okay. Mainstream media needs rules of conduct. Misinformation, disinformation cannot be called news. Rosie will be out of a job soon. Every one of these people is on the Liberal payroll. And just for fun, one more clip complaining about right-wing media groups.
Then the leader spoke post-debate in those scrums. What did you hear from those scrums?
The post-debate scrums were dominated by right-wing media groups who flooded leaders with questions on topics unrelated to the debate. One did ask Carney if he felt Trudeau was a good prime minister. Carney said that he was and that they have shared values, including taking care of Canadians, reconciliation and equality.
Just more awful reporting from the CBC. These are problems and questions that Canadians want answered. If they're asking them what their favorite crayon color is, then that would be fair criticism. But asking if they think Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was a good leader is a great question, because it says a lot about how Mark Carney views his legacy. And it wouldn't be Good Friday without having Palestinian protesters doing their chants and waving their flags.
Okay, I'll deal with it. You'll deal with what? I'll deal with it. Excuse me? You'll deal with what? You'll deal with...
Like, we have had enough of this, guys. Mass bandits going around. Enough. Time for new police. Terrible. Does she have a permit? No, I call BS. With Pierre leading essentially 20 points in that Yahoo poll, which had 50,000 people, how do you think this is going to translate for the election?